Today I want to talk about the U.S. federal tax credit and how that will work out for possibly for maximizing as many people that can qualify it for the Model 3. The document, and I'll put it in the video notes at the bottom, is available on the IRS website. The document is an IRC30D document, and it's for the plug-in electric drive motor credit. And it has to do with phase-out. Now, there's a lot of confusion. I'm getting some comments in the video. How does it work? How many am I going to be able to qualify? Am I going to be able to get the tax credit? Given that Tesla has over 400,000 reservations on the car as it stands right now. So I'm going to try and explain it, and I'll have a diagram a little bit later. So I want to read a very short part of the paragraph, and I think it really helps people to understand how the phase-out works. So the qualified plug-in electric drive motor credit phases out for a manufacturer's vehicles over a one-year period beginning with the second calendar quarter, and that's very important to remember. After the calendar quarter in which at least 200,000 qualified vehicles have been manufactured and sold, and this is the important part, sold in the United States. Yes, Tesla has over 400,000 reservations, but that doesn't mean that 400,000 reservations are just in the US. This is a worldwide number. How many they have in the US, we don't really know. But the magic number is the limit that's reached as how many vehicles are sold in the US, and that's 200,000. So I've prepared a diagram, and we're going to try and explain how this works over calendar quarters so that everybody gets a pretty good understanding of how the phase-out works. So let's suppose in this diagram that Tesla sells its 200,000th electric vehicle in the US beginning, let's say, on February 10th, 2017. Now these are just made up numbers, they're not real, but bear with me. So what happens from there is that they would ostensibly have one more month, March, and then the rest of the next quarter, April, May, and June of 2017, to keep selling vehicles at the 100% credit level at $7,500. Beginning of the second calendar quarter of the year, that's when the 50% of the full amount now gets triggered at that point. So that would be July through December of 2017. The next two calendar quarters would be 25% of the full amount, so $1,875. And then once those two calendar quarters are over, then there's no credit. I hope that this explains a little bit of how it would most likely work out. However, someone had posted a Twitter comment to Elon had asked him, well, it's not really fair because, you know, we don't know when it's going to happen, and, you know, would we qualify? Elon had basically responded and said, well, we try and maximize as much as we can for our customers, and our production plans are going to try and work it out so that we can get as many qualifications. So what if we tried a little thought experiment? Let's take this diagram and let's just suppose, for example, that Tesla would almost reach 200,000 vehicles sold in the US, let's say in December of 2016. So let's say they cut off production maybe, say 2 weeks before they would reach that limit. Then what would happen is that, let's say January 1st, then they would produce their 200,000th vehicle. Well, that triggers the 200,000 car limit, but the phase-out actually doesn't begin until after the second calendar quarter. So they would essentially have 6 full months, let's say from this diagram here, you look from January till June, to be able to sell the vehicles at the full credit amount. So then the phase-out would then begin in the second half of the year, let's say in July, and that would run through December. Then you would qualify for 50% of the full amount at $3,750. The rest of the phase-out, the 25% of the full amount of $1,875, would then phase out over the next 6 months going into 2018. And then beginning in July throughout the rest of the year, then you would get no credit at that point. So I hope that this diagram really helps to understand how the phase-out could potentially happen. And hopefully that Tesla's production will be ramped up in such a way that they could be able to take advantage of this phase-out period and the ability to sell vehicles at the full credit amount and kind of front-load the deliveries and the sales as much as possible so that everybody gets a fair chance of getting this. So hope it answers any questions you might have. If you put any comments down on the bottom, and gives us some fodder for maybe another video. So thanks for watching.